she's like her dad. She's got to look fresh, regardless. What was it about? White men can't jump. Like that's what Woody was trying to say to the other cat. They're too busy trying to look good.
Yep. Bill Hoyle was
Yeah.
like, see, you worried about making it look good. I'm worried about winning.
Yeah, because his gear was hella sweaty. He was looking crazy, but he was making buckets though.
No, and so like I've gotten way less vain in part because I just don't leave the house, right? but like in my younger days, I definitely was a vain fellow, and so I know that I've passed that down. But like now that I have daughters, so it's magnified. Like it's one thing as a, you know what I mean? Like I feel like as a man or as a boy, I was relatively clean for a boy. I was, you know what I'm saying, relatively vain for a boy. But now that they're girls, it's like magnified, and so it just becomes too. It's just a bit much, dude. If it's like an hour and a half of preparation to go to Walmart or something, it's just like, bro, it's way too much, man. All right, well, so let's jump right into this, man. It's been we missed a week. We're kind of waiting for this regular season bullshit to die down, right, and kind of get the seedings. And then shit hits the fan, 48 hours ago? And before I get your take, I want to get this off. I turned on ESPN this morning, and they had the fill-ins on First Take. Dominic Rogers Carmody, or one of those Farnsworth, goofy. This cockeyed motherfucker was on there against Will Kane. And this dude, him and Ryan Hollins, were really compassionately defending Magic. Like, all I got to say is, he left it in a better place than what it was. And you could tell, you know what it reminded me of is, one, I have to understand that these debate shows, sometimes you got to take a side that you don't really believe. But it didn't appear like it was that. It really appeared like it was how he felt. And what I think it was is he had some sort of like childhood, Magic was a hero of his, rightfully so, as a child, as a star basketball player. And it kind of, I think that was like clouding his, because right? Because if you really want to break down what has transpired with the Lakers and Magic Johnson over the last 18 months, I don't know how you can compassionately defend Magic Johnson.
Exactly, right? People have talked about how he had a talk show that he walked away from immediately. It appears that anything that he doesn't show direct success with, he walks away from on a lot of different levels. And just because you're the man in the room with all charisma does not mean that you can look at financials, make backdoor deals or behind the scene deals. It doesn't mean that suddenly you're going to transition. I was hearing this cat on the radio. He was like, well, what we need now is Kobe. Kobe's going to step in. And someone was like, why? Granted, Kobe's very smart and has a lot of skills, but why would he be your savior? A, he probably doesn't have interest in traveling the world again, scouting, going to Arkansas, going to Istanbul, looking at people to scout. And then B, the business acumen that you have to be a manager and work on those lines. Like you get Harvard cats, you get Stanford cats, MIT cats, and not that someone else can't do it, but Magic clearly was just a personality. But for them to turn it around, they're going to need a thinker. And I'm not saying Magic isn't a thinker, but I don't know. I think his move was not super calculated. Just all of a sudden, like, I quit. I'm out of here. Like, I don't know.
Well, couldn't you imagine Kobe, too? Because I've been listening to all, it's the talk of the town, right? And everybody is theorizing. And I have my theories that I'll get into here. But you brought up Kobe, and I've heard that, too. Can't you imagine? Because they were talking about who can ultimately get in a room with the Kawhi Leonards and the Kevin Durants and really convince them, sway things towards the Lakers, because they've fallen. They're not as appealing as they think they are as a destination. And couldn't you see Kobe being like, all right, like cutting his palm, and like dripping blood out on the table, like, all right, I'm willing to commit. Do you want that Mamba mentality? No, but I mean, I could just see him being, you know what I mean? He's not exactly a people's person. You're right. Like, and I was just talking with my guy last night about it's amazing how so many, we were actually talking Niner football and John Lynch and how I have no confidence in him moving forward in the draft.
Oh, okay.
But
that kind of changed for a little bit there. You were hopeful, but I think that happens to all of us. Like anytime there's drafts or next season, that hope overcomes you.
Right. Well, the proof's in the pudding, and I've seen, right. Like I was like, initially you're like, okay. And I'm a big fan of Shanahan. I really think he is a football genius. But anyway, we were talking about how being a an elite talent at your sport, they're never really good talent evaluators if you look at the history of it. And so you're talking about
none of these fools.
Magic, Kobe, all these guys. And Kobe is definitely like an awkward. You can tell he's like not one of the fellas. Like Kobe's a weirdo, and I don't mean that in a negative way, really. I mean I admire his grind, but I don't think he's the guy you send to recruit.
Yeah.
But people are saying like, what, why did this happen? And this impromptu, and I just want to tweet. I just want to be Magic again, baby. I just want to smile. First off, and there's all this talk about like Luke Walton, and he kind of said, oh, I don't want to change people's lives, and he kind of cowered it out of it by acting as if like he really like he didn't want to hurt Luke Walton's feelings or Jeannie, and the real when I think Walton is giving Jeannie the wang. Like, this isn't your average podcast here. We ain't gonna give you the stereotypical, well, they didn't want, no. Walton was using that big bassy voice. He was like, Jeannie, and he was just giving him the Walton swag to her. And so that was complicating things, I think. No, but I don't know, man. I think the Lakers, I think it could get uglier before it gets better.
Exactly. If you think about LeBron's situation, it's kind of crazy. Some people were writing that for the playoff scene, like LeBron James will have enough time to build a wine cellar by hand. The East will be much more compelling than the West. And there's definitely some different things to do, but he's going to have time off. And this really has been pretty tragic. You go there, you get injured. You have your supporting cast not come up to par. 2 or 3 people get injured along with you. Your management, an all-time great Hall of Famer, steps away. So it's kind of like the whole ship is sailing. Not like, a couple of people jumped ship, but like some Titanic type stuff. And hopefully they can rebound, but I don't know.
Well, and I was trying to explain it to Amaya. I was like, man, Magic, it's like he jumped ship after taking a big shit on the ship deck. Like Magic took a giant steamy dump on the Staples Center floor and then ran out the back door. Like,
yeah. Like, have you seen that new Kevin Hart stand up by any chance? If you get a chance, check it out. He talks about the great baby who ends up doodooing on his floor or whatever.
Yeah, the real slide just slides the diaper to the side, like real casual. Like
you got to put up a visual with Magic's face on the great baby.
That's real, man. Because I remember there's a ridiculousness montage of people like shitting in grocery stores and just like back alleys and shit like that, right? And the one thing that you noticed was like that's not the first time they've done that. Like it was like the baby, right? It was just like a real smooth operation, wham bam, thank you, man, back walking. And it was like, oh man, that's some professional shit right there. No pun.
Well, if you think about it, I don't know. I don't want to get into Magic's personal life, but how many ladies do you think he's done that to? Like, oh baby, I'm gonna be leaving tonight and not come back. So I think he has that behavior to where he can like do some dirt and then dip. And I might take it to a level. Don't be offended, but I mean the man did catch a pretty big life-changing disease. So I think he's had some practice telling people one thing and doing something different.
You're being politically correct, and I appreciate that because you balance me out because I'm not going to be. Let's call it what it is. There's a great chance that behind the scenes, Magic's just a scumbag, right? Like,
you feel me?
Like there's just a great chance, and I know people go, "Oh, you can't talk like Magic." Like looking at these dudes on ESPN. I get it. He is on the surface. He's a hero and he's inspirational and he's empowered a lot of people, or has a lot of business sense. But the fact behind the scenes, like there's a good chance he's Tiger Woods behind the scenes, right? And that big smile, he tries to get away with everything. I wouldn't doubt that for a second.
Yeah, man.
But one thing, and before we hop into now, those of you that are tuning in are like, well, the playoff time. I'm gonna have a Warriors playoff preview here, probably out tomorrow. I really want to dissect this matchup. They got the Clippers. The matchups were finally set. But before maybe I jump into that, I want to jump around a couple spots because we missed a week. And this is spur of the moment. I know you're not necessarily ready to give a take on this, but sometimes I like the candid ones. We need to do away, and you know what I noticed this was with the grieving of Nipsey Hussle. Mm-hmm. And how it says so much because the amount of attention this is getting surpasses his fame surpasses his fame when he was alive, right? So I think it
Yes.
kind of speaks one. A lot of people are claiming, clout chasing, and it's kind of getting weird with some of the people that are speaking out about it. But overall, I think it speaks to the dude that he was, that so many people are reaching out and it's getting that big. But I don't even want to get into that. Rest in peace, Nip. But we need to do away with the young king phrase. Like,
Okay.
I just don't like it. Now, like, you could call Nipsey that, right? Because what he was doing was great. He was an extraordinary person at what he was doing and what he came from.
Okay.
And like, you could call Zion perhaps a young king, or
right.
like in the sports realm, right? And that's kind of what I'm speaking at or whatever. But like, to just throw it around all willy nilly, hey, that young king, my young king, like, nah, not everybody's a king, bro.
Yes, yes,
like I
yeah.
feel like it's being loosely thrown around, like my young king, my young queen. Like, nah, not everybody are kings and queens. That's not how it works.
Yeah. I've got a good friend named Brian, and he talks about how back in the '90s there was that whole push with hip hop on, we was kings back in the day, and you study your African history, and we come from a lineage of kings and things like that. So from that standpoint, culturally, that could be positive. But there's a lot of terms that are misused. You know what I'm saying? Like, I personally don't enjoy the term triggered. Like, that really bothers me. I think it's kind of lame. I'm not a big fan of it. And then there's just some terms, you're right, that get used a lot. And it kind of goes back to our conversation about the alpha male. So not everybody's king. Let's be quite honest. There were definitely servants. There were definitely the middle class cats, if you look historically. So yeah, that whole My Young King. Did LeBron start that? Like with the
I don't know where it started. I picked shout out the Joe Button podcast. That's like one of the only, like, kind of for the culture pods that I'll tune into every now and then. And it's like, that's where I started hearing it he started throwing it around kind of sarcastically, right? Kind of like my young king, kind of clowning it. And then like, now fast forward like a year later, and now it's just like used like seriously.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just too loosely used. Like, if you're going to use it, make sure it's somebody that is on their way to being special.
Sure.
Right.
Sure,
and I guess that's subjective in itself, but right. But like my young king Lonzo, like, no.
Yeah.
I know it's easy to kick the Lakers when they're down, but damn.
Yeah.
And then I got on here the other day and I just rambled because I'm planning. I may do these quick little video pods after the playoff nights, like 10, 15-minute things. And I was trying it out. And I talked a little bit about the end of the NCAA tournament. One thing that I do want to say is when Duke was finally eliminated, Trey Jones, his brother's on the Timberwolves. They look exactly the same. He's outside the lottery prospect, the Duke point guard, the light-skinned kid. It's commonplace to see these kids, tear up and cry when they know it's their last college game and all that and that stuff. That's fine. I hear you're giggling a little because I'm about to insult somebody. It's never positive with Alchemy, but so this kid proceeded to hit the floor on his knees, and he collapsed and he cried, and I was like, okay, But then as they had to peel him off the floor, 90 seconds later, I was like, damn, that's a bit much, bro. And then they pan back to the Luke locker room at some point later in the night, and he's on somebody's shoulder, still sobbing. And I was like, bro, I'm knocking you way off my draft board, my nigga. Like, that's too, that's fine. You could shed a tear, you could cry, but to be like, have to be consoled for that long. Like, literally, I was like, yo, because I liked him as a prospect. The jumper needs to come along. But I was like, yo, I'm definitely moving him back on my draft spot. And then sure enough, a couple days later, I see it on the ESPN ticker. Trey Jones will stay another year at Duke. And I was like, good. He ain't ready.
Yeah. Emotionally. Yeah. You definitely. Come on. You can't be crying on somebody's shoulders. Like, I can understand like a hug and a pat or like a dap or kind of you catch eyes and like, all right, man, we tried hard. We didn't get it this year or something like that. But yeah, when you're having to like coddle this fool and basically rebuild him right there for, you said like 3 minutes or something.
It was
like
too long. That's what I'm saying. I don't have a problem. Cry, put your head down for a bit or whatever, but gather yourself and you know what I'm saying? Pick yourself up and move off the floor. You can't just be there like like it was something you would have seen, you know, on the playground. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where when
yeah,
a kid,
like
when you're like, come on, get up. You know, when the kid and you have to pick them up and they limp their body and you're like, get up. And they're like, nah. It was, all right, now I'm exaggerating, but I'm doing them wrong. But it was somewhere in between that and like, all right, bro. In other news, I don't know if you saw this, but Paul Pierce continues to embarrass the shit out of himself. And Paul is like,
oh my God.
I've probably already shat on him several times, but like I said, is there any guy where the talent from player to analyst ratio is any more skewed?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like he is just, but anyway, he's been super salty about D Wade's farewell tour.
Uh-huh.
And so it was like a month ago, right? He said he was a better shooter than Clay. And then so this week is the final week of D Wade's career. He says he was better than D Wade. And if he played with Bron and all them, he'd have 5-6 rings.
Why? But why? I mean, it's just so much reflectionist and revisionist history. Like, why have something to say about everything? Like, I think sometimes analysts have too much to say about everything. And like, why would that be helpful? It's almost as bad as when Kenny Smith was talking about his workout routine and started suddenly working out in the booth, doing his diamond push-ups. And for the record,
Kenny, dude, but Kenny's knees, bro, he can't do it's all upper body with Kenny, bro.
But I'm just saying, these analysts, they get into it and they get out of the league and they start getting that itch and start thinking, well, I would have did this and I would have done that. I think just we as humans do that in general. I was at the barber shop and they were talking about how they play in these little basketball leagues, but they're getting a little older, 35, 36. And the old man thing is always, yeah, I'd have done this and I'd have done that, you know. But so I don't know why Pierce is out there. Why did he make that statement? Why was that relevant and helpful to know?
It's everything is about him, and it really is working. I've realized I'm bad sometimes. I get trolled. Like, you know me, I'm pretty literal. I'm pretty like, oh, what you see is what you get. I mean this. Like, I'm not, you know, I'll joke around. When I joke, I feel like it's pretty clear. Like it's, you know what I mean? But it's subjective. But sometimes I get trolled and I realize like, who's the fat Jabba the Hutt fool on Speak for Yourself, Whitlock. Right? I realize like I get so worked up sometimes listening to his takes and I'm like, damn, he's good. Because that's the point. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that Paul is just a natural troll. And I think his ignorance is natural. And so, and I think the distaste from Michelle Beadle or whatever her name is, and Chauncey and all them, I think they have a genuine distaste for his personality. And so it's TV gold. It's TV gold, right? Because they don't have to, because like a lot of these ESPN shows in the morning, right? It's really a forced debate. And they're probably really cool behind the scenes. Every now and then they get fired up, right? But this is genuine. They're really like, shut the fuck up, Paul. Like, are you serious,
one
bro?
More time.
Yeah. So it's great TV for ESPN. They've hit gold with it. And then I guess they closed out the players only on TNT the other night, and I had a couple observations. One, someone put a bun in Candace's oven. I'm calling it right now. Again, this is an inappropriate podcast. I really don't care.
She's a beautiful woman, though.
Yeah, she is, man. I'm trying to make a super son. I don't blame him. But I think she looks pregnant to me. She was like covered up and she looks like kind of swollen and stuff. And hey, I don't know, but that's one observation. Then Vince Carter was on there. That brother is way too old to not know how to shave. Like he had like he's like, what is he 41 principal? And he had the mad razor bumps. It was like, Vince, you know damn well you need clippers, bro. You know damn well you ain't supposed to use no Bic razor on your cheeks, boy. But man.
But was it any worse than we'll leave his name nameless, but our old principal?
So it wasn't
hella shave real quickly before a meeting and be like bleeding while talking to you.
Oh yeah, you call you in the office. He still had shaving cream on his neck with like blood and like a napkin. You're like, bro,
yeah, dude, what are you doing?
So no, he wasn't nicked up, but like as a brother, like,
oh yeah, the bumps.
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of figure this out like in your late teens, early 20s, right? Where you're like, oh, like the razors ain't working. I need the liner clippers, right? I need the clippers, or that's why a lot of brothers just keep the shadow. And it was like you coming out like. At 41, Vince? North Carolina, bro? I don't know. Anyway, I thought, you know me, I'm just talking that shit. So the playoff matches are set. Warriors, Clippers. Again, if y'all are are tuning in for my take on that, I'm going to save that one because I want to get into detail on it. I'll just say I don't think it may be as easy as a matchup as people think. I think my upset alert is the Brooklyn Nets and Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay.
And what I wanted to get into a little bit was, I believe I'd mentioned this a few weeks ago, the mishandling of Joel Embiid in his knee, in his back, in his body. They're saying that he may not play. He may not be ready for game one. And then, it'll be a day-to-day thing. But here, to those of you not familiar with what happened, is he has knees, right? He's had it's been the question throughout his career, right? He is like a surefire Hall of Famer if healthy. And so he had the back issue out of Kansas, didn't play, obviously trust the process. He's had surgery on the right knee, I believe, the meniscus. And so he's had all these ailing injuries, and headed into the All-Star break, he was chipped up. He went to All-Star weekend, and then after All-Star weekend had to sit out with knee soreness for like 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, then that's not a good look. And I kind of blame Joel because I was like, he's probably not being honest with the team. He didn't want to miss All-Star weekend, so he wasn't telling them his knee was sore. I'm like, all right, so they hold him out a little bit. Now I watched that in Milwaukee. I broke down. Those of you, there's a quick little self-promotion though. I'm starting to break down other videos on my Patreon, other key matchups in the playoffs. So those of you that want my takes that are not just necessarily Warrior takes, they're fire. They're fire. I'm really enjoying it because it's just something else to talk about besides the Warriors. But
y'all get on that. Just as an outsider, knowing the man, get on that. I'm telling you, he's on the up and up. You want to get in on the ground floor before he doesn't recognize you anymore. I'm just kidding.
And I'm going on a little rant here about this the Embiid thing. But so I'm watching the Bucks Sixers game, and he's falling all over the floor. He's grabbing his back. He had a monstrous game, but you could tell he was lumbering. He was in pain. He looks like he's gotten a little bit out of shape. And I'm watching several of these Sixer games down the stretch here, the regular season, and I'm like, Embiid doesn't look that good. Like, why is he playing? Why is he playing right now? I understand they were still seeding. They were still fighting for seeding. But, like, you got to keep the big picture in play. And it just looks like Philadelphia has mishandled his health. And I think he's to blame for some of it. One, not keeping his weight down and probably not being completely honest with how he's feeling. But that's a huge problem, man. Headed into the playoffs, and Brooklyn is kind of like the Houston Rockets in the sense of now they don't have, D'Angelo Russell is like a homeless James Harden maybe. but
with that weekend type.
Yeah, but in the sense of they're going to shoot so many threes that if they're hitting them on a given night, it's a problem for anybody in the league. And
yeah, definitely. They were saying Russell and the Nets follow the blueprint established by Kenny Atkinson, play with pace, take shots from behind the arc and in the paint, and defend the three-point line and the rim. So that is their formula. Jack up lots of them. You say that if they hit them, they'll be in a good position.
Dude, I'm not betting. I'm not saying place your bets on the Nets. I'm just saying that's the series that I circle as like, it could get interesting, especially if Embiid's not playing and they're hitting the threes. I like how they play, and I think they're playing with house money. I don't think there's a lot of pressure on them. I know they don't have any playoff experience on that roster, maybe like Ed Davis or something like that, even if he's on that team anymore. But they're just playing with house money. They shoot a lot of threes. And then Philadelphia, I'm just not. I've brought up Brent Brown. I don't love him as for his strategies. Embiid is chipped up. They're gonna gap Ben Simmons by like 25 feet. Redick doesn't look exactly healthy. He looks like he's chafing terribly between the legs every time he tries to move his feet laterally, like defensively. It looks like he needs like some, I don't know what he needs, man. I'm gonna leave that alone. But so that'd be that, and then people are making a big fuss out of what Denver has done. Denver basically strategically lost down the stretch here to position all the powers in the Western Conference in the same bracket, and it worked. So props to them. You've got basically Houston, Utah, and the Warriors all in the same bracket. So they're going to see each other, before the conference finals. And then in the other bracket, it's Denver, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, and Portland. And Portland's chipped up. I would take the Thunder. I think that's going to be the trendy pick. Is the Thunder? They're going to it's the 6 and 3 seed, but mind you, these teams are separated by a game or two. And yeah, the Thunder are probably going to win that series, but I do think that it's going to be have probably the most fireworks. Dame and Russ have a little bit of a on-court beef, and that series is going to get chippy. And Portland's not going to go out. I know they're undermanned. They're not going to go out without a fight, considering who their leader is and how they went out last year. Like, I'll be damned if they're going to get swept out again.
Right, and you're right with OKC. It's hard to project anything when it comes to OKC because they have so much variance. When you're talking about the variance between Paul Pierce's basketball skills and his analytics, that great variance between there, the OKC is kind of similar on some levels. Sometimes they're at the top of the world. They're either at the top of the world or scummy. You know what I'm saying? So they could either win or just lose and be out in the first round. And both of those contingencies, people would be like, oh, that makes sense. So that really shows that you're inconsistent whenever you can hit a home run or just strike out, but there's nothing in between and people accept both. That really shows that you're either at the bottom end of the spectrum or the top, and you don't really have that consistency of the middle. So yeah, OKC will definitely be interesting. And then you got to think about with the Blazers too, who will be filling in for Nurkic's role? Will Zach Collins be potentially doing a bit more?
I like Collins better than Cantor. They went and got Cantor from New York in the buyout market, and I did a breakdown about him, or I had a little take on him when he got there, because there's a stigma out there about his defense, and it's real. It's real. It's bad. It's fucking bad, and it's just weird because he's big, he's athletic, and his effort is high, but his IQ, his sense of where to be, is terrible. And you know how, like, if I'll take it to striking or boxing. Eventually, you have to commit and set your feet, right? Like, if you're just constantly bouncing on your toes, you have nothing behind your punches. You're kind of nowhere. You're just off balance all the time, and that's like Cantor. He confuses like activity with productivity on the defensive end. So he's all over the place. He's trying hard. He's showing that he's trying, but he ends up being nowhere. You know what I mean? He's just too reactionary. So I don't know if they're going to Cantor. But that said, and here's what's baffling about it, because usually when you look at a bad defender, you go, oh, he can't move laterally, or he can't protect the rim vertically, right? Or he's just his lack of size. And he if you watch him offensively, he has some of the best footwork in the league.
Yes.
And so that's kind of the catch with him. So it's going to be a platooning effort. Now with the Thunder, I don't know how if they can go small. I just done this breakdown the other night of that Thunder Rockets game. Steven Adams is not the same. Like, Steven Adams is not the same dude. He is lumbering. He does not move well out on the high pick and rolls. Dame's going to be able to get off if they set him up in high pick and rolls. And so I don't know if one of these coaches is going to try to force the series small. I think Stouts will probably try to force the series into small ball. But they have some depth. I think the bigger question for Portland is CJ McCollum coming back from that, like, knee populitis or whatever it is, the strain behind the kneecap. And you know how it is with an injury. I'm coming back from nursing a knee injury right now.
Yeah, how's that going?
I think I'm healthy. I'm healthy, but, like, my mind isn't recovered yet. I don't have my rhythm or shape, but I don't trust the knee fully yet, right? And so that's the good. CJ, he could be fine. His knee could be fully healed, but to get the strength back in it, the trust and confidence back in it, it could take this whole first round. And so now you're putting so much pressure on Dame. You got Seth Curry, Rodney Hood with a lefty, but I think it'll be an entertaining fireworks series.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be bomb. Like, I'm super excited. Like, with the way that the whole atmosphere has changed. I believe it was the Wall Street Journal wrote an article, and I didn't gain access to it because I'm not about to pay for the subscription. But anyways, they were talking about how this playoff series coming up is very pivotal for the NBA. And of course, you can say that about anything, but the whole atmosphere has really, really changed. LeBron is out of it. I think it's been since like 2005 or 2006. That's a pretty considerable amount of time. Someone else is going to emerge from the East. There might, I hate to say it. I'm not even going to say it because it's blasphemy, but let's say somebody else wins this year, so there's a lot of changes on the horizon. And from a business standpoint, that's why the Wall Street Journal got involved, because they're saying that it's going to be very profitable for these owners and the NBA what happens during this playoff series, because it's kind of like old school. You got Portland and what was that cat, Cliff Robinson and Terry Porter and all
Uncle
those fools,
Cliff.
like just all those different things, man. Like who had an interesting career, but I'm just saying it was kind of like it reminds me. Maybe I'm getting nostalgic, but back whenever you really thought more people could win, even though we all know the Warriors are probably going to win. At least with LeBron out, there was a greater opportunity for more stakes in the claim. So that's what they were kind of saying, is more people have stake in it now, and that's going to be very profitable.
Right, and I saw a photo of it. This is the most exciting playoffs since I've been doing this now, the 3 years or so that I'm because usually the first round is kind of not intriguing. Usually the way it pans out, right? But now right away we have interest. And then the nostalgia, I saw, the changing of the guard, I saw a photo on Instagram, like this is officially the end of this era. And it was a picture of Kobe, Dirk, Wade, and, that era, those stars all together. And it's a changing of the guard, and you're seeing LeBron is finally kind of falling off the throne. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be fun, man. Thank God the D Wade tour is over. You see him fall off the table. I must say he handled it smooth as fuck. Like,
how can you fall off a table smooth?
Because he was like, whoa. It didn't phase him. It didn't phase him. He handled it as good as possible. But I was like, damn, what if he like blew the knee out, like celebrating on a table?
Right, and then, to be hoisted out of the gym.
And then I know you'll be excited to hear the Banana Boat Boy showed up in Brooklyn last night, courtside, for his last game, and LeBron hit his classic smiley, that weird-ass face he can make, photobombed him. And Melo showed up looking swollen, probably smelling like Hennessy and ass, courtside. But Melo in the gym, Hoodie Melo, right. Sign him for the playoffs.
Dang, I wanted to get your take because, I'm from Arlington, but I say Dallas because it's more recognizable. Although Arlington has gotten a bit more noticeable on the map, that's actually where the Cowboys play now. But with Dirk, he's an OG, man. He played, 1,522 games, 21 seasons. He's almost like a Cal Ripken. Or there's this old lineman who nobody really, somebody will know his name. But to be an offensive lineman in the NFL and play for like 18 years and never miss a game, that's Hall of Fame status. Like, that's disgusting because O-line is really where it's at if you think about it. Like, so I just think Dirk is amazing for playing over 1,500 games. And I wanted to ask you about his shot. Like, he went off in his last game. Granted, they were playing the Suns, so that definitely helped. And that fool Crawford turned into Iverson in the fourth. I think he had like 51 or whatever. And then those cats look like bums. Like, that was really ugly to watch. But as a Mavs, I can't say Mavs fan, I am a homer, but talk to me about the evolution of Dirk's shot, because I just noticed it's just up and in. Like, it gets there fast. I don't know how to explain it.
But I have, and here I go. I'm Paul Piercing it right now. Like, me and Dirk, man, we be killing people from outside. But I have a similar release, like that slingshot over the head shot. Obviously, like, Dirk's 7 foot, he's one of the greatest of all time. But I have a similar release point, like up high, and people kind of will scoff at it initially. Not like real hoopers know. A lot of people that shoot over the head shots are good shooters. But initially, some people, that's a funky looking shot, and you're like, oh yeah, well, have some of it, have some, bro. But Dirk, man, first off, I'm Team Dirk. I choose Dirk over Wade.
Yes.
And I know we can run off the numbers. Here we go. But he really revolutionized the game for shooting. I'm not saying anything that's not known as far as a shooter, and I don't think it really changed. Now, he had a coach. Forgive me, I don't know his name, but hit like a special shooting coach throughout his whole career. This German dude who was kind of like a mad scientist and had a lot of outside of the box training methods on shooting. And he would fly him in every season from Germany, and he still came in periodically. And I think he even worked with Nash and some other guys. But I guess the interesting thing is that I'll say about this is I don't think it changed too much throughout his career. But what was cool is how Dirk, and And then this is something I heard from, I'm jumping all over the place here, but Bomani, they were doing the Dirk segment, and they made a great point, and I have a statement to make, is Dirk killed the stigma of Europeans being soft. Yep. Because they really tried to punk Dirk initially in the league, and he just powered through it.
Yeah.
And, right?
His gear, though, but honestly, if you go back and look at some of Dirk's old gear with the hanging cross earring and the cross color style and the buzz or the chili bowl haircut coming out of Germany, that shit was
him
fine.
And Nash looked crazy. Him and Nash looked crazy together, right? But it got me to thinking about this. I think now it's funny how things have changed, because yes, that was a stigma. The Europeans are soft, right? When they came into the league, they're just shooters. Mm-hmm. Now I'd argue that the Europeans are harder than the new millennials or generation, whatever you want to call them, Americans that are in the league now. Like if you look at the Lukas and the Bogdanoviches and the Europeans now, they're harder than the Americans.
Yes. Hell yeah.
So at some point there's been a cultural shift in the game. Now those fools are coming in at your neck. And you got the Americans coming in like on some fruity tip.
Needing to be peeled off of the floor, crying. You know what I'm saying?
Hey man, but the one thing I will say about Dirk's shot is that I find interesting, and I don't know if it had to do with his shot trainer, is for me, I developed that shot is when I had a late growth spurt. So I was like 5'10" until I was like 17, and then I grew like another 4 inches or so. Mm-hmm. So I always played, and I played above with older kids, and so I kind of developed that over the head shot to get my shot off, right? Because like I wasn't tall, and I didn't. That's how I had to get my shot off. And that's usually, if you see shot form, it's developed out of necessity. Mm-hmm. And so for Dirk to be 7 foot and shoot like that is wild. You know what I mean? Because I doubt there was ever a time that he needed to get a shot off over taller people. Yeah. And so I think it was by design from this dude. And that's kind of what separated.
It was good to see. I'm glad he did well in his last game. It was excellent to watch. And my last thing on it is, like, in Dallas, anybody from there, who do we like more, Romo, Witten, Dirk, or Nolan Ryan? I know y'all love y'all's baseball, so I put Nolan Ryan in there because he's an OG in Texas. But I think if I had to choose between Romo, Witten, Dirk, and Ryan, Dirk all the way. If there's like they're going out to eat and there's only one table left, I think Dirk's getting it. Romo, you can come back. Witten, we love you, but whatever. I think Dirk's getting that final seat at the table, at least in Dallas right now.
No doubt. I'm speaking from a distance, but you can eliminate Romo and Witten off the jump because they didn't bring no chip.
Yeah.
Right? Period. That's that. And then Nolan Ryan, from everything I remember, it wasn't he like a real asshole?
Yeah, but I'm okay. I'm going to speak on it. But yes, he represents a lot of the things people don't like about Texas. Some of the conservative redneck stuff, but they do love him out there. So even though he was an asshole, cats love Nolan Ryan.
Right. No, and that's a very common, we've spoken about this, the common trait. I find that super high in dominant pitchers. Mm-hmm. Like the Kurt Schillings, the right, Nolan Ryans, who like Pedro was a little different. Pedro kind of had that asshole, Latin swag where it was like it was more subtle, but you were like, no, you're an asshole, you're an asshole. But a lot of the dominant pitchers, because pitching is it's like an intimidating thing, right? When you get,
are you kidding me?
When you get in the box, those fools were like just vicious. And they would punk batters. It is what it is. They would punk batters. But yeah, I guess that's enough about Dallas, man. Let's stop talking about Dallas, dog.
All right.
But yeah, I guess just to wrap this one up here, again, I'm gonna be bringing you guys a lot more YouTube content throughout the playoffs, stuff that's real timely, like after games end, like that night, I want to get stuff out. But to wrap things up, I guess I want to say Milwaukee, I think, has fallen into some luck. They've had some bad luck with injuries. Obviously, Brogdon, what dude's escaping my name? Who they got at the deadline, the 3-point shooter. Anyway, the 7-footer hurt his foot. Brogdon. They've had some bad luck with the injuries, and they're nursing Giannis's ankle. But drawing Detroit in the first round, and the fact that Blake looks like he's playing on like a bionic leg. Have you seen that knee brace that Blake's wearing? Him and Dragic both have this like bionic like knee leg. It looks like an air cast. It's crazy. And so if if Blake is like not healthy, he is so much of that team and they're so reliant on him. Milwaukee looks like they're going to have a cakewalk, and they should be able to kind of like not expend too much energy in this first round. And it's deservedly so. They have the best record in the league, and they deserve a little bit of luck with the injuries and stuff. And then Toronto, Orlando. Orlando's come out of nowhere. They're playing really well. Toronto, I think it is imperative that they come out and make a statement in round one and just like stomp the shit out of Orlando. Like they can't give them no life. And because the media is so ready to pounce on Toronto, we know that. Remember last year when I went off on Kyle Lowry after they blew it? And like he looks like a Geek Squad employee. Like I sounded off on Toronto because I had picked them. But I think they need to come out and make a statement early on that it's not the same Raptors team. We know it's not, like, by roster design, obviously with Kawhi and Siakam's emergence. But I'm just saying, if they need to definitively dispose of the Orlando Magic. And then last but not least, Bill Simmons' Boston Celtics. Marcus Smart chipped up. Look, they say he's out probably 2 rounds. Yeah, this it's a funky. He tore, I want to say, his hip flexor or his abdominal, something in his hip flexor abdominal area. Something that sounds like it's going to take a long time, bro.
Yes. You like the IT band, that thing that runs down the side of the leg that connects the hip to the joint.
Something within like that area in the abdominal wall. Something where it sounds like it's you don't know you can't test it. You know how like when you have a sore knee or a sore ankle, you're like, let me test it. When you have
like hernia type shit.
Yeah, when you have that shit, there's no testing it. Like you're out of commission, and so that sets you back even further. So Boston, the Indiana Boston series, I don't know if I think they can still pull that out. But if they're not going to have Marcus Smart into the second round, I think it's a rapidy wrap for the Boston Celtics, man. But I think we covered that. It was good to get this one off again, and then when the playoffs start, maybe we can do some stuff. Hop on like right after a big game, and we can really just have some live takes.
I'm definitely with it.
All right, y'all. We out. We wrapping this one. NBA Alchemy. Oh yeah, and go. I have it now. We have this on Google Play, Spotify, and Apple iTunes, as well as putting it out on YouTube, so you can catch it on any platform. I appreciate you, Jimmy.
Yeah, man. I'll talk to you later on.